Yo, have you seen the new guy at the gym? The tall one with the sleeve tats? My buddy Jay nodded towards the weight section. I followed his gaze, and there he was, S&T lean muscles rippling, as he cranked out rep after rep on the pull-up bar. Sweat glistened off his olive skin. Yeah, man, I've noticed him before. Dude's jacked. Jay smirked. And hot as hell, I'd let him pin me down any day. Rolling my eyes, I punched his arm. Get your mind out of the gutter, perv. Once my friend's loud cackle subsided, he raised an eyebrow. What? Like you weren't checking him out too, Mr. Straight Guy? I opened my mouth to protest, but the guy suddenly locked eyes with me. My words stuck in my throat as our gazes held for a heated moment before I managed to tear my eyes away. See? You were so scoping him out. Jay gloated. Whatever, dude. I grabbed my towel, trying to ignore how flushed I suddenly felt. I'm heading out. Later. As I rushed towards the locker room, I could have sworn I felt that guy's eyes burning into my back. Shoving away the flutters in my stomach, I reminded myself he was gay. I was straight. No matter how insanely ripped he was, nothing could happen between us. Little did I know, that was just the start of things getting very, very complicated. A few weeks later, I was mid-set on the bench press when a familiar voice made me nearly drop the bar. Need a spotter? I blinked up at Mr. Insanely Ripped from the other day. Up close, his hazel eyes were even more striking. Yeah, man, that'd be great. I tried not to stare as he grabbed the bar, those tatted arms flexing impressively. Once I racked the weights, he stuck out a hand. I'm Caleb, by the way. Sorry for checking you out the other week. That was uncool of me. Ignoring how sweaty my palm was, I shook his grip. Nah, man, no worries. I'm Alex, and sorry if I made it weird after. Caleb chuckled, running a hand through his tousled curls. No worries at all, Alex. Are you new around here? I haven't seen you before. Yeah, man, just moved a couple months ago for a new job. I couldn't resist glancing at his snug tank top that left little the imagination. He caught me looking and smirked. See something you like? I felt myself redden. My buddy Jay said the same thing about you, actually. Said he wouldn't mind if you pinned him down. Oh, really? Caleb leaned against the weight bench, arms crossed. Is he the jealous boyfriend I should watch out for? What? No, dude's just a shameless flirt is all, I said quickly, mentally kicking myself. Why did I mention Jay? Caleb grinned crookedly. Good to know. Anyway, I should let you get back to your workout, but we should grab a protein shake sometime, if you'd like some tips on your form. He gave me an obvious once-over before sauntering off, leaving me slack-jawed and extremely flustered. Yep, this guy was going to be trouble, I could already tell. A few months later, Caleb and I were gym buddies and had become pretty close friends. We'd grab post-workout shakes, swap stories about our latest dates, and just bullshit about life in general. One night, we were knocking back a couple beers at my apartment when he dropped a bombshell. Hey man, I gotta give you a heads up. The Rona's about to shut this whole city down. Gyms included. I cocked an eyebrow. Wait, for real, shit's getting that serious. Caleb nodded grimly. Yeah, my firm is having us all go remote starting next week. Could be this way for months, who knows. Downing the last of my beer, I sighed heavily. Fuck. I didn't realize it was that bad. This quarantine life is gonna suck ass. Tell me about it. Caleb stared into his bottle. Actually, I've been thinking, my roommate is moving back home to his parents' place out of state. He doesn't want to get stuck here. So my lease is about to be a one-bedroom. I studied him carefully. You thinking what I think you're thinking? He met my gaze evenly. You're an introvert who tends to get in your head too much, especially when alone for too long. And I'm a mega extrovert who would probably go stir-crazy locked up by myself. We get along great as friends. You're proposing we move in together for quarantine. I couldn't keep the surprise out of my tone. Caleb shrugged, suddenly looking almost shy. I mean, yeah, we could either get a new place or you could just move into my place since it's got the second bedroom free. He searched my face earnestly. I think it could work great for both of us, but no pressure either way, man. Just a thought. As crazy as it sounded, the more I thought about it, the more it started making sense. We hung out all the time anyway, and solitude during a pandemic lockdown didn't exactly sound appealing. You know what, dude? A grin spread across my face. Let's do it. Roomies it is. Caleb's answering blinding smile was a sight to behold. Little did I know, agreeing to that spontaneous roommate proposition would change everything between us. Moving in with Caleb during quarantine started off great. Having a roommate to hang with actually made the lockdown feel less shitty and isolating. We fell into an easy routine, working remotely from our respective bedrooms during the day, then hanging out at night playing video games, watching movies, or just chilling with beers. But after a couple months of living together, something shifted. Maybe it was the constant proximity and all that pent-up flirtatious tension we used to relieve by going on dates with other people. Either way, I started noticing Caleb in a way I never really had before. Like how even first thing in the morning, his bedhead and sleepy grin somehow made my heart stutter, or how whenever we brushed past each other in the kitchen, I'd get this weird shivery feeling. Certain smells started reminding me of him, his musky cologne or the sandalwood scent of the shampoo. I tried ignoring it at first, convinced it was just my duly appreciation for his admittedly hot bod and thinking nothing of it. We were just comfortable around each other as friends, that's all. No big deal. Except it was becoming a big deal to me. I couldn't stop sneaking glances at him when he wasn't looking, taking in those strong forearms exposed by his pushed-up sleeves, the dusting of scruff on his chiseled jaw, or the way his slim-fitted shirts clung to his abs and pecs. Shit, even the dude's big dumb feet were starting to look weirdly attractive. Then there were the dreams, vivid, sweaty dreams that have me waking up breathless and disconcertingly turned on. I'd lay there in bed, sheets tangled around my body as I tried processing the fact that I just had an incredibly realistic sex fantasy about my best friend, about a guy. I was the straightest dude I knew, for Chris' sake. Sure, there'd been a few drunken bro-on-bro makeout sessions in college that we didn't talk about. And okay, maybe I thought Eddie Redmayne was stupidly beautiful in that one movie. But full-on fantasizing about being intimate with another man, that was new uncharted territory for me. The more the acknowledged tension kept building, the more I started acting like a blushing teenage girl around Caleb, hair-trigger blush, getting all flustered whenever he so much as glanced my way. He had to have noticed, but if he did, he didn't let on. Either way, I knew I couldn't keep whatever this was bottled up for much longer before it drove me certifiably insane. Things came to a head one night after we'd both had a few too many drinks while playing video games. I don't even remember what game we were playing at that point. I was too distracted by how close Caleb was sitting next to me, our thighs nearly touching. The sleeves of his worn Henley were shoved up past his elbows, exposing those tan forearms I'd been obsessing over. I couldn't tear my eyes away, mesmerized by the way his muscles flexed and tendons standing out with every movement of the controller in his hands. "Dude, you're staring again," Caleb chuckled, snapping me out of my trance. I felt my face instantly burn. Sorry, I was just zoning out. Sir." He paused the game and turned to face me, amusement dancing in those whiskey-colored eyes. "You've been zoning out a lot lately when you look at me. Everything okay?" The alcohol must have shorted out my brain-to-mouth filter because the next words just tumbled out. "Not really. You just look really good is all." Caleb raised an eyebrow, lips quirking. "Oh yeah. See something you like, Alex?" My eyes dropped to his mouth almost involuntarily. I watched transfixed as his tongue peeked out to wet his full lower lip. On pure instinct, I started leaning closer. Caleb's sharp inhale made me freeze, mere inches from his lips. Panic flooded my veins, shocking me back to reality. What the fuck was I doing? This was Caleb, my friend, my roommate, who was very much a guy. A guy who, up until recently, I'd never even considered that way. "Shit, I gotta go," I muttered gruffly, shoving off the couch and bolting towards my bedroom as if the hounds of hell were on my heels. I slammed the door behind me and pressed my overheated forehead against the mercifully cool wood, squeezing my eyes shut. This had gotten so far out of hand. Whatever weird deviant thoughts and feelings I was having about my very male best friend needed to stop immediately before I completely nuked our entire friendship and living situation into oblivion. Knew what had to be done. I needed to get the hell out of that apartment and put some serious distance between Caleb and I for a while, even if it killed me. So the next few weeks were torturous. I could barely look at Caleb without blushing furiously or getting flustered. Anytime we were in the same room, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. We stopped hanging out together like we used to. I'd either hole up in my bedroom or make excuses to get out of the apartment. Caleb seemed just as confused by my sudden hot and cold behavior. He'd try to engage me in conversation, and I'd give one-word answers before fleeing the room. Once or twice, I caught him staring at me with this unreadable look on his face, like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. The truth was, I didn't trust myself around him anymore, not after that near kiss and the disturbing thoughts it had unleashed. I was horrifically attracted to my best friend, and that unlocked some deeply buried curiosities about my sexuality that I didn't know what to do with. It became this vicious cycle. The more I avoided Caleb to get some perspective, the more distracted I became, obsessively analyzing everything, wondering if I was truly gay or maybe bi. How did I not realize this about myself sooner? And if I did decide to explore this new side of me, could I ever actually pursue something real with Caleb? The thought was equal parts tantalizing and terrifying. My inexperienced mind didn't know how to process actually dating a dude, despite how gorgeous and amazing Caleb was. Like, were there different rules, different roles? I didn't have a goddamn clue. What I did know was that my feelings weren't going away anytime soon. If anything, the more I pulled back, the more laser-focused I became on every little thing about Caleb that drove me wild. The way his shirt rolled up to expose those mouth-watering abs whenever he stretched, the cadence of his low, rumbly laugh, the muskiness of his skin when he'd just gotten out of the shower. I was in way over my head here. I had to face facts, and dragging this out any longer was only going to result in me combusting into a pile of ashes. If I wanted to preserve what was left of my sanity and dignity, I had to finally bite the bullet and confess everything to Caleb, no matter how terrifying. Avoiding this was no longer an option. With a steadying inhale, I emerged from my bedroom feeling like a man walking towards the firing squad. "Hey, Carl, we need to talk." Caleb looked up from the couch, brow furrowed with concern at the serious tone in my voice. "What's going on, man? You've been acting weird as hell lately." I sank onto the opposite end of the couch, feeling like my heart was about to jackhammer out of my chest. "Get it together, Alex. Just rip off the Band-Aid." "Look, there's no easy way to say this." I scrubbed a hand over my face, avoiding his questioning gaze. "But I've developed feelings for you, Cal. Romantic ones, and it's confusing as fuck for me." The silence that followed was deafening. When I finally dared a peek at him, Caleb's expression was completely unreadable, which did nothing for calming my haywire nerves. "Do you have feelings for me?" he asked slowly, as if struggling to process my words. "As in, you have a crush on me?" I cringed at him putting it so bluntly, but nodded jerkily. "Yeah, look, I don't know how or why this is happening. You're the first guy I've ever felt this way about. Trust me, I'm just as weirded out by it as you probably are." Caleb held up a hand, then dragged it through his messy curls as he blew out a long exhale. "Wow, okay, I can't pretend I saw this coming at all." My stomach plummeted at his bewildered tone. Here it was in the letdown I'd been bracing for, where he told me this was a horrible mistake, and we could never be friends again. "I'm so sorry, Cal," I rushed out, words tripping over themselves in my panic. "I never wanted to jeopardize our friendship like this. Just forget I said anything, yeah? We can go back to how things—" "Alex," Caleb cut me off firmly, his eyes finally meeting mine with an intensity that shut me right up. "You didn't let me finish." He reached out and cupped my jaw, making my breath hitch at the warm touch. I can't pretend I'm not. Intrigued, I guess. Maybe a part of me has wondered what it might be like with you before, but I never let myself go there out of respect. As my eyes went wide at the unexpected admission. You've thought about us, too." The soft smile he gave me then was beautifully fine. "Of course I have, you oblivious idiot. I'm gay and you're stupid hot." Those thoughts were inevitable. His thumb stroked along the scruff on my cheek, making me shiver. I just never imagined you could actually feel that way about me, too. So, I swallowed hard, feeling like I was teetering on the edge of an impossibly high precipice. "What does this mean, then?" Caleb's gaze searched mine for a loaded moment before he murmured, "It means I'm open to exploring this with you, Alex. If you are—" The invitation hung heavy in the charged air between us. For the first time in weeks, the anxiety and indecision weighing on me eased into a sense of clarity. Yeah, I found myself replying, more sure about this than I'd been about anything. I definitely, Then Caleb's lips curved into a devastating grin, and he erased the last few inches separating us. The moment Caleb's mouth slanted over mine, it was like a lightning bolt zapped through my entire body. Every nerve ending was abruptly engulfed in flames, craving more of the soft, insistent pressure of his lips moving against me. He cradled the back of my head in one big palm, angling me closer as his other hand gripped my hip almost possessively. I fisted my hands in the front of his shirt, pulling him flush against me until not an inch separated our bodies on the couch. So when his tongue swiped hungrily along the seam of my lips, I gasped, allowing him to instantly deepen the kiss. The slick velvet heat of his mouth overwhelming me. I groaned shamelessly into him, dimly aware of his growling approval vibrating against my lips. Seeing Caleb was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. There was an urgency, a passionate intensity that knocked me sideways, like we'd been starving for this and were now gorging ourselves desperate. His sandalwood scent surrounded me, the warm, musky aroma setting me aflame. I couldn't get enough, sucking on that wicked tongue, nipping at his plush lower lip, sliding my hands underneath his shirt to explore the ridges of muscle there. Caleb abruptly tore his mouth from mine, both of us panting harshly. His swollen lips were slick and tempting as hell. Unable to resist, I latched back onto them, nibbling along his jaw down to that sensitive spot below his ear that made his breath stutter. "Fuck, Alex," he rasped out tremblingly, fingers clutching my hair almost painfully. "You're making me lose my mind here, baby." Those two words that casual Pete named from his gravelly depths shot straight to my dick. I whimpered against the hot column of his throat, hips shifting restlessly against him as I ruddered upwards. The delicious friction made us both moan. "Please, Cal," I mumbled mindlessly, having no idea what I was even asking for, just knowing I needed more. "Don't stop. I can't." He hauled me fully onto his lap, our closed directions rubbing together deliriously. I rocked against him with broken sounds, hands roaming his broad shoulders and chest frantically. "I've got you, baby," Caleb soothed in that low, reassuring rasp that somehow immediately calmed my whirlwind lust into a slow smolder. "We've got all the time in the world to explore this. No need to rush." Gradually, my frantic movements slowed into a sensual, leisurely grind against the firm planes of his body beneath me. He was right. We had all the time we needed to figure this out together. As our fevered kisses became languid and deep once more, I simply basked in the indescribable feeling of Caleb's solid weight anchoring me, his hands smoothing possessive paths over my back and sides in a soothing caress that ignited me in an entirely new way. Yeah, I could definitely get used to this whole exploring thing. With Caleb, the possibilities felt intoxicatingly, infinitely endless. In the hazy afterglow, Caleb and I lay tangled together on the couch, my head pillowed on his chest, fingers idly tracing the hard planes of his abdomen. I could listen to the steady thrum of his heartbeat all day. So, his low rumble vibrated against my cheek. That happened. I huffed out a ragged chuckle, still trying to catch my breath. Yeah, you could say that. Tilting my chin up with two fingers, he gazed down at me with those soulful whiskey eyes, swirling with a tenderness that made my chest ache. "We don't have to figure everything out right now, you know? But I need to know if this," he gestured vaguely between us, "is something you want to actually pursue, as more than just an experiment." The serious note in his tone had me stilling, mind racing as I grappled with the weight of that question. Was this just a one-time thing born of built-up curiosity and sexual tension, or was I truly open to, what? Dating Caleb? Being his boyfriend? When you got down to it, past the male-female aspect, he was still the same amazing person I'd fallen for. Loyal, supportive, with the most incredibly huge heart. Someone who just intrinsically got me, quirks and all. Pressing a soft kiss to the inked skin over his heartbeat, I knew my answer. "Yeah, Kyle, I want to pursue this. All of it with you. I can't make any promises about having all the answers right away, but I'm all in." The bright, beaming smile he gave me then was more dazzling than 1,000 watts. "Good, because I'm pretty crazy about you, Alex." He cupped my jaw, brushing his thumb over the arch of my cheekbone. "We'll take this at whatever pace you need. I'm so fucking glad you told me how you felt." My lips curved against the warm skin of his chest as a profound feeling of contentment washed over me. "Me too, Cal. God, me too." We lost ourselves in another heated kiss, one that quickly deepened and reignited the smoldering embers between us. As Caleb rolled us over, pinning me into the couch with that solid weight I was rapidly getting addicted to, I couldn't stop the low whine that escaped me. "Easy, baby," he breathed against the hinge of my jaw, voice like sin. "We've got all the time in the world now, and I plan to spend it properly unwrapping every dirty little gift you've got for me." His wicked grin and the feel of those big hands roaming over me had me squirming eagerly beneath him, feeling like the luckiest guy alive. This new path we were on was uncharted, slightly terrifying territory. But with Caleb as my guide, I had a feeling it was going to be one hell of an incredible journey. The next few months were a whirlwind of exploring our new relationship, learning each other's bodies, kinks, and boundaries in the most deliciously intimate ways. With Caleb, everything felt natural and unhurried, like we had all the time in the universe just for us. He was incredibly patient, tender even, as I fumbled my way through uncharted territory, never judging, only encouraging me to vocalize what felt good or didn't with soft reassurances, and that low rumbling praise that never failed to make me shudder. "That's it, baby. Let me hear how much you're liking this." The filthy rumble of his voice alone was enough to have me leaking precom, thighs trembling around his shoulders as that wicked tongue worked me into a mindless frenzy. In turn, I reveled in learning what made Caleb's heavy-lidded eyes roll back, worshipping every ridge and plane of his body with fervent swipes of my tongue, sucking bruising marks into his tawny skin that had him arching off the mattress with guttural groans. We were insatiable for each other, going for hours until we were both wrecked and sated in the best possible way. Lost in the hazy, sweat-soaked afterglow with his solid heat blanketing me, I'd trace the wandering trails of his tattoos and be struck by how deliriously at peace I felt. It's like coming home to a place I'd never even known I was missing. When we finally did emerge from our lust-fueled cocoon existing around Caleb felt easy, domestic, even a preview of what this could gradually evolve into long-term if we let it. So waking up to his sleep-rumpled bedhead and sleepy grin, engaging in ridiculous banter over breakfast, sharing inside jokes and casually affectionate touches neither of us overthought. The outside world may have been stuck on indefinite pause due to the pandemic, but our own little bubble remained a lively kaleidoscope, full of passion and discovery and growth, which inevitably led to a whole new, kind of uncharted territory, feelings. I was utterly gobsmacked the first time the words crossed my mind regarding Caleb. I think I'm falling for it. The realization struck me one lazy, rain-drenched morning. We were curled up watching trashy movies, my cheek pillowed on his chest as he toyed idly with my hair. Out of nowhere, I was slammed by a bone-deep contentment and warmth that made my breath catch, like I never wanted to be anywhere else ever again. When Caleb glanced down at me with a soft, patented smile, I felt like my heart was going to jackhammer out of my chest. This crazy, gorgeous man who walked into my life so unexpectedly and upended everything now felt essential, a part of my world I couldn't imagine going without. That terrifying, addictive vulnerability was new for me, but also beckoned with the promise of something transcendent if I could be brave enough to completely open myself to it. And if these last few blissful months had shown me anything, it was that Caleb was the one person I trusted enough to freefall into the unknown with. So with a steadying breath, I took that leap. "Hey, Carl?" My voice was huskier than intended as I angled my head back to look at him. He glanced down at me, idly tucking a stray lock of hair behind my ear. Such a simple gesture, yet it made my heart stutter. I took a fortifying breath. No more overthinking, just speak from the heart. "I'm falling for you. Like, really falling." Caleb went sail still, those whiskey-colored eyes I adored searching my face intently. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. "You're sure about that?" "Yeah," I replied without an ounce of doubt, holding his weighted gaze. "I've never felt this way about anyone before. It's terrifying as hell if I'm being honest. But I've also never been more sure of anything." The smile that broke across his full lips was brighter than 1,000 suns. "Alex," he cupped the back of my neck, pulling me in until our foreheads touched. "Baby, you have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear you say that." The husky rumble in his voice and the molten affection in his eyes ignited a slow burn low in my gut. Any residual nerves I had instantly melted under the sheer intensity of his stare. "I'm so gone for you, Alex," he rasped, the rough pad of his thumb stroking lightly along my jaw. "Have been for a long time, if I'm being honest. I just didn't want to." "To what?" I murmured, utterly transfixed. He exhaled a shaky laugh, eyes crinkling at the corners with pure fondness. "Didn't want to scare you off by coming on too strong before you were ready?" I couldn't resist capturing that smirk with my lips, exchanging a deep, drugging kiss that quickly stole my breath. When we parted, I found myself straddling his lap, fingers tangling in those wild, dark curls I loved. Well, consider me very ready now. For all of it, Cal, I said with a rakish grin, relishing the way his pupils blew wide. In fact, I believe you mentioned something about unwrapping me like a gift. The low, filthy groan that rumbled from his chest as he surged up to seal our mouths together again damn near made me climax on the spot. Gone was the earlier tenderness, replaced by an urgency that had me tugging frantically at his shirt. You don't know what you do to me, baby, he growled between searing kisses along my jawline down to the curve of my neck, making me shudder. Now that I've got you, there's no way in hell I'm letting you go. His words resonated deep in my soul, banishing any leftover doubts or reservations. This thing between us had evolved into so much more than just friendly experimentation or giving in to curiosities. It was inevitable, written in the stars, just two souls destined to remap and intertwine their lives together. As Caleb swiftly divested me of my clothes, I willingly opened myself to this new, all-encompassing intimacy. Mind, body, and heart completely laid bare before the only person I'd ever want to be so vulnerable with. The only person I'd ever want, period. And as his thick, reverent hands skated over my exposed skin, slowly driving me into a familiar fever pitch of delirious pleasure, I finally felt whole, like my soul had been sleepwalking through life until this very moment of perfect, infinite alignment. Whatever trials or tribulations the future may hold, bring them on, because with Caleb by my side, I could conquer anything. For the first time in forever, I was certain which path my journey was meant to follow. And I had never felt so utterly, deliriously at peace. In the months that followed, Caleb and I settled into an intoxicatingly domestic bliss that I never could have imagined for myself. Our little quarantine oasis evolved into a cozy love nest, a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world where we could just be. Be achingly in love, be deliriously happy, be insatiably lustful and attentive lovers, worshipping every inch of each other's bodies until we were both boneless and sated. Say be an actual couple figuring out the day-to-day choreography of cohabitating and merging our lives, squabbling over territory in the bathroom, cracking dumb jokes over breakfast, sharing hopes and dreams in the stillness of our bedroom late at night. There was no going back to how things used to be, and I had zero regrets about that. Everything had irrevocably shifted, and honestly, I was relishing every moment of the exhilarating free fall. With Caleb by my side, I felt brave enough to fully embrace my sexuality and the new outlook it gave me on so many aspects of life, like how freeing it was to shed ingrained male insecurities about seeming feminine and instead appreciate the shades of complexity in my masculinity, or how mind-blowing it was to discover new erogenous zones and pleasures I'd been clueless about for far too long. Jesus fuck, Cole, how are you? My low whine dissolving into incoherent pants as his thick fingers massaged insistently against that magic little bundle of nerves. He sealed those indecent lips over mine, swallowing my cries with a cocksure smirk. Just wait until you see what this talented tongue can do, baby. I came apart at the darkly promising rasp of his voice, arching against the silk sheets as lightning zinged through my veins. He wasn't exaggerating. That wicked mouth could wreck me more thoroughly than I'd ever dreamed possible. As overwhelming as the deepening physical intimacy was, I think what threw me the most were the quieter moments, domestic scenes and routines that, on the surface, were utterly mundane, but to me, felt so achingly profound. Things like waking up to Caleb's sleep-rumpled hair tickling my cheek and the solid weight of his morning wood, pressed snugly against the small of my back. Lazy make-out sessions over coffee that soon gave way to wandering hands pulling off rumpled pajamas, taking turns shaving each other in the shower, tracing the lather in swirls down chiseled jaws and ridged abs with just a hint of teasing promise. Or the bone-deep contentment of collapsing in a heap on the couch after making love, muscles deliciously lax and a fine sheen of sweat cooling on our skin. Caleb draped over me like a full-bodied blanket, idly tracing my sternum and the scattered tattoos there with those talented fingers. A sated, drugging quiet blanketing us as we existed purely in the moment, too sedated to even move. This intimacy, this level of complete openness and trust, was something I never even knew I was missing in my life. But now that I had Caleb, I couldn't fathom being without it. I had no clue where this crazy roller coaster would ultimately lead, after we emerged from the isolated wonderland of our lust-filled bubble. If we'd ultimately make it as a couple for the long haul, All I knew was that for now, in this moment, I was deliriously, unequivocally happy. And even if things didn't work out permanently between us, I would forever be grateful to Caleb for giving me the courage to take that first terrifying leap into the unknown, for showing me the depths of connection, vulnerability, and self-discovery I've been missing out on my entire life. As his rich laughter rumbled against my lips during a heated kiss, my heart felt fit to burst with affection for this man. My partner, my lover, my whole world wrapped up in soulful hazel eyes, inked slashes of art, and the most enormous heart. Maybe this was just a once-in-a-lifetime cosmic collision that wouldn't last forever. But in that moment, curled against the solid strength of Caleb's body, I didn't need forever. I just needed right now this exquisite journey, unfolding one breathtaking day at a time. And I had never felt so alive. As the world outside our cozy refuge gradually began reopening, Caleb and I were faced with a new uncharted frontier, how to navigate our relationship beyond just the two of us. Don't get me wrong, emerging from our quarantine cocoon still riding highs of newfound intimacy and passion was incredible. But eventually, the thrill of sneaking semi-public kisses and heavy petting while out for groceries or at half-empty restaurants wore off. We both craved more to experience this incredible connection that had blossomed between us out in the open without restraint. Of course, that meant one petrifying inevitability, coming out. The prospect of having that conversation with friends and family already had my palms sweating. Years upon years of ingrained heteronormativity didn't just magically disappear, even with Caleb's steadfast support and reassurance. "You don't have to figure it all out right away, baby," he murmured against the crown of my head one night as we lay tangled up. "Just take it one step at a time at your own pace." I gave a shaky exhale, pressing my face further into the solid warmth of his chest to ground myself in his soothing cedar and sandalwood. I know it's still so fucking scary, you know? What if they react badly or I don't know, lose people? His fingers smoothed soothingly through my hair, the repetitive motion slowly unspooling the frantic spiral of my thoughts. Then those people didn't deserve to be in your life in the first place. But let's cross that bridge if we get to it, okay? I'm right here with you, no matter what. The quiet conviction in his gravelly timbre seeped into my very marrow, chasing away residual doubts. Caleb was my safe harbor, my North Star. I could brave anything so long as I had his unwavering light to guide me. So I squared my shoulders and took my first daring leap, coming out to Jay during a round of Warzone one night. My childhood best friend made it ridiculously easy, cackling in that irreverent way of his when I admitted I was dating Caleb. "Dude, I'm just stoked my boy is finally getting his dick wet on the regular. Though I gotta say, Caleb seems like an Adonis-level serious upgrade on your spank bank." I rolled my eyes so hard they nearly fell out. "You're a real prince, Jay." "Hey, I'm just calling it like I see it," he chuckled, then sobered slightly. "But for real, man, I'm happy for you. As long as Caleb treats you right, he's good in my book." The tension bled from my shoulders at his sincere tone. Trust Jay to vastly overthink literally nothing. From there, coming out to the rest of my inner circle mercifully followed the same chill pattern. Outside of some awkward follow-up questions from my more traditional parents, the overwhelming response ended up being one big collective shrug. "You've always been the same goofball to us, just with a new hottie on your arm." Jenny, my older sis, quipped fondly. "Caleb seems like a great guy who really cares about you. That's all that matters." As for Caleb, the reception from his family and friends was unsurprisingly warm and accepting, as if my being a guy wasn't even a blip on their radar. They just saw how euphorically happy we were together and were excited for us. So with each milestone, each weight lifted off my shoulders, I felt lighter and lighter, more and more certain about the solidity of this love I'd miraculously found with Caleb. That certainty made being open and proudly, outrageously ourselves feel natural, even emboldening. Like the night we attended my firm's annual gala and arrived hand in hand, Caleb looking like a runway model in his sleek tuxedo, while I was utterly ruined in my own well-tailored threads. As we worked the room making our rounds, I felt a sizzling undercurrent of lust and possessiveness thrumming between us two. Molten eye contact, the weight of his hand burning through the thin fabric at the small of my back, the obscene curl of his lips as he'd lean in to murmur something sinfully suggestive in my ear. At one point, feeling reckless and entirely unable to resist the gravitational pull between us anymore. I caught his jaw and dragged him down into a long, filthy kiss that had him rumbling with male approval. When we parted, both of us were panting harshly, eyes glazed and dark. "Take me home and ravish me, Mr. Rodriguez," I demanded in a rough murmur against the plush sheet of his mouth. Salpala growled something positively obscene about not even making it that far before hitching my thigh around, his narrow hips in full view of everyone, claiming me with that wicked tongue in a way that had me whimpering shamelessly right there in the middle of the ballroom. That was the thing about publicly being with Caleb. It was intoxicating, incandescent in its intensity, an unapologetic admission to the world that this was who I was, who we were, crazy, deliriously in love and thoroughly gone for each other. After keeping such a vital part of myself so deeply locked away for most of my life, being able to openly love and experience everything with Caleb felt like the grandest reinvention, the most profound metamorphosis. Each kiss, each heated graze of fingertips, each smoldering look exchange sent a silent but defiant message to anyone who dared try and judge or diminish the all-encompassing force of nature between us. This is my heart outside my chest. This is my soul bared for the world. This is me finally awake and so fucking alive. So go ahead and try to deny this blazing truth all you want, because I couldn't have it any other way. The months began to bleed together in the most beautifully monotonous way as Caleb and I settled even deeper into the cozy, companionable rhythm of our love. The mornings became a lazy ritual, his solid heat curving around me from behind as the pale light of dawn filtered through the curtains, our legs tangling beneath rumpled sheets, dueling alarm clocks, dragging us from heavenly slumber with grumpy groans muffled into pillows, shortly followed by lingering good morning kisses turned necking sessions that usually led to being fashionably late for work. "Call, baby, we gotta go." I tried to protest weakly as his wicked mouth trailed scorching paths down my throat. He'd pinned me to the mattress with that delicious weight I'd grown addicted to, eyes dark and smoky. 5 more minutes of this gorgeous body and I'm good to go, I swear. Needless to say, we rarely made it to the office on time, a fact our co-workers endlessly gave us shit for, but with zero actual venom, just fond eye-roll acceptance at how helplessly, deliriously into each other we clearly were. Our tiny apartment, which once felt poky and cramped during quarantine, gradually became a cozy little sanctuary I never wanted to leave, filled to the brim with memories woven between every nook and cranny, christening nearly every available surface, trashed living rooms from rowdy video game tournaments that dissolved into heavy makeouts, shamelessly shirtless weekend lays-about sessions on the balcony soaking up the summer rays, and trading languid kisses that tasted like beer and Barbie chips. We were each other's havens in the most profound sense, no matter what bullshit the day brought. Annoying clients, stressful workloads, family dramatics. The moment that rickety apartment door closed behind us, it was like the entire world just stopped. It's like some unseen force hit a cosmic pause button and muffled all the noise. All that mattered was each other in those 4 walls, unwinding in a tangle of heated kisses on the couch, devouring delivery while watching shitty movies in our boxers, lovemaking that at times felt dirtily profane but at others so sacred and reverent it damn near brought tears to my eyes. In those quiet, cherished in-betweens, it felt like Caleb and I were the only 2 beings in existence, like Adam and Eve in our own private Eden before the fall from grace, living only by the whims of our bodies and rapidly synchronizing heartbeats, without responsibility or care beyond cherishing each other. It was blissfully, decadently domestic in the most transcendent sense, a whole world unto itself that I lost myself in over and over again with zero regrets. And at the pulsing heart of it all, the blazing star around which my entire universe orbited, was Caleb himself. My lover, my partner, my goddamn everything all wrapped up in inked slashes of art, mussed hair that never stayed neat for long, and a megawatt smile that melted me on a cellular level. In those moments, just bathing in the ethereal afterglow of his presence, it was easy to get swept up in dangerous ideations of forever, of more, always more, of making this fiercely beautiful thing stretching between us official and unbreakable in the eyes of the law and whatever higher powers ruled the cosmos. Because no matter how many mind-blowing rooms in that cramped little space we made love in, or how many delirious hours I lost myself mapping every ridge and valley of his body, it never felt like enough. I was endlessly ravenous, starving for everything he had to give. Where this unnameable, all-consuming force blazing between us could ultimately lead, that was still the grandest mystery. But in those heated in-betweens, as Caleb worshipped me with mouth and hands, I knew my heart and soul already belonged to him utterly and irrevocably. And if he'd have me, this man who had atomized every outdated belief I'd once clung to and remade me anew through the fires of his passion, then my entire being was his now and for every tomorrow to come. In the end, it was the little things that made me realize just how utterly gone I was on this wild, incredible ride with Caleb. Like the way he stubbornly double-knotted the laces of my ragged old chucks despite my protests that they were past saving because he knew they were my favorite. How he'd absent-mindedly mouth along to the choruses of my favorite metal songs while fixing us breakfast, rasping the lyrics in that wrecked morning timbre that never failed to give me tingles, that crooked, panty-dropping grin he'd flash in the afterglow, already planning the next time he could take me apart with those wicked hands and talented mouth. It was the bone-deep comfort and contentment that comes from sharing every single up, down, in, and out of your existence with one person without fear or restraint, so handing them the most priceless pieces of your heart and soul, utterly secure in the knowledge they'd safeguard those treasures more fiercely than anything. The sacred trust that they held the power to wreck you in the most profoundly shattering yet fortifying way imaginable, and you'd still turn around and let them do it all over again without hesitation. Says that was the crux of it. Through the fog of insecurity and internalized doubts I'd carried for far too long, I saw Caleb for the brilliant truth he was, a force of nature, a wildfire soul who blazed so incandescently that you couldn't help but be drawn inextricably into his orbit like dual stars locked in the same gravity well. He was chaos and creativity, passion and peace, all combusting together into one devastatingly beautiful, larger-than-life being, magnetic and raw and utterly unafraid to throw the full weight of himself into everything we had at each other again and again until we were both deliriously sated. Simply put, Caleb Rodriguez was my whole fucking world, and I finally felt worthy of basking in his light at long last. And as the hazy, lust-drunk weeks melded seamlessly into quarters and years rotating in a continuous loop, I still found myself constantly gobsmacked at how every little nuance, every seemingly insignificant detail about him never stopped utterly captivating me. Things like the elegant slash of his cheekbones that my eyes traced hungrily no matter how many hundreds of times I'd mapped that beloved path before. The intoxicating depth to his tawny irises that invited me to dive in and get utterly, blissfully lost every time our gazes crashed. Or the boyish tousle of those dark curls I couldn't keep my fingers out of, tunneling and tugging until desperate, guttural pleas rumbled against my lips to never, ever stop, fueling the flames of the wildfire churning eternally between us into an inferno all over again. The mundane rhythms of daily life now stood as milestones, reminders of our transcendent journey, seared in the fine lines bracketing his full, sinful mouth and crinkling the corners of those expressive eyes. Each mark and silver hair just more hard-won badges of our sacred union that set my soul alight with pride and bone-deep wonder. Who was I to be granted the rights to witness such miracles unfolding? This most divine of loves, one forged in the fires of the unknown, tempered by the fervent belief that the universe had indeed calculated the collision of our cosmic paths with brilliant, benevolent intention. When Caleb cradled my jaw in one broad, reverent palm staring at me like I was the answer to every longing, every secret dream his ravenous heart harbored, I still had to resist the urge to let my soul leave my body from the sheer overwhelm. How did I deserve such rapture, such all-encompassing consecration as this? What grand karmic scales did I somehow manage to irrevocably tip in my favor to be awarded this bounty, this invincible place of succor and devotion? In those soul-shattering moments, I could only surrender to the seismic enormity of this cosmic force that had engulfed me so utterly in its thrall. The past no longer mattered, an afterthought wiped clean in the wake of this glorious metamorphosis. My life had irrevocably split into two eras. Day before, mired in solitary darkness and the blinding, all-consuming after, where Caleb existed as the blazing sun illuminating my entire universe. As his mouth slanted hotly over mine with familiar, moldering possession, I offered up every carnal sin and the most virtuous profundities my reborn soul could summon in feverish recompense, communing, surrendering, praising with every frantic undulation of my body in wanton transcendent worship. For I had finally found the sacrosanct temple where I belonged, cherished, consecrated, made anew over and over in the rapturous throes of this most sacred love that had rewritten the entire cosmic calendar of my existence. My entire world had been reshaped and rearranged to revolve around the radiant truth of Caleb alone. In his arms lay the only plane I was ever meant to exist upon fully, blissfully, deliriously alive and awakened to the beauty of being so inseparably twined with another soaring spirit. And as the velveteen promise of forever whispered through his trembling rasp, I vowed with every fiber of my remade being to cherish and honor this sanctified miracle for the rest of my days, to bask rapturously in the blinding radiance of our twin souls until the very stardust that birthed us finally conspired to reclaim us once more.